interlocutors are born. Resistance is futile. Your life, as it has been, is over. From this time forward, you will service us.
No! We will not service Washington.
Mr. Worf, fire.
Well, welcome to an all new and exciting The Renegade and the Rambler show. I am one of your hosts, the Renegade, Dan Bailey, and I'm joined tonight by the other host of the show, which is Jeff Johnson, the Rambler, and Suzanne's in here babysitting us, making sure we behave ourselves. So,
I don't know how that's possible.
I don't know if she's here to
babysit
us or to help us get into more trouble, but she's here.
Well, I don't know how she be babysitting us and trying to keep us out of trouble. Maybe we need to be babysitting her.
You know,
she just got out of Facebook jail.
Oh, I think Facebook's scared. She actually had 50 some views on her last video she did on Wednesday.
Yes, I just got out of Pokey and I received, hey everybody. I received a notification just after the show, I believe when Jeff and I did on Wednesday or Thursday last week. And it said, I recently posted something that violated their community standards. Click here to see what it is. And I clicked there, and I'll admit it wasn't the most ladylike post I've ever done. But that being said, it was probably 8 years old. And this is nothing that somebody could have just shared recently. Having had some discussions with some of my friends, I have had so many people whose behavior on Facebook has been impeccable that are getting shut down, and they're being told the same thing, that they're finding posts that are many years old. So this is telling me, I would think somebody that is working inside Facebook or somebody that's very adept at scrolling back many years or doing searches many years are going back to find us. And again, there's no statute of limitations. There's no appeals. You are out. You are on a timeout. So Jeff, you told me about Gab, and I set up an account there, as did you guys. And I'm trying to post a lot of stuff there and hopefully walk away from Facebook. They don't want us. I know so many people that have backup accounts. If somebody doesn't want to serve you or work with you, why keep coming back?
Oh, I know. I've been... I don't know how we got. Well, I know how we got started because I gave you a hard time. Anyway,
yeah, I'll be quiet.
I've been trying to drive people over to Gab for quite a while now because I've just, quite honestly, I'm tired of Facebook. The algorithm they're using, I'm not sure that most of the stuff we post even gets beyond maybe our friends, and sometimes I don't even think some of our friends are getting a lot of our posts. So. And that's what's, I think, very frustrating to us because we talk quite a bit, and it seems very frustrating that our message doesn't seem to go anywhere. And I think really it does have something to do with the algorithm that Facebook employs, that it really does suppress us and keeps us from reaching people. I really hope we can drive some people from Facebook over to Gab, and I hope we can start growing over there. Quite honestly, they allow you to have say politically incorrect things over there. They don't care. The other thing is really, I just changed our quote over there. They had an Orwell quote that was actually a pretty good quote. I wasn't sorry about it and upset about it, but I did change it to a Patrick Henry quote, the one stating that the direct end of your government should be to protect liberty. So that's the reason I changed it, because I wanted to put our own personal spin on it. So if you're listening and you are looking for a way to get away from Facebook, go check out Gab and look for us there, because we're there. And, you know, it's really funny. I was sharing it in, our, oh, boy, I just drew a blank on his name. He writes the book, Boyd Craven. Boyd Craven has a group of a bunch of different post-apocalyptic writers. And they were complaining about them getting some of them were in timeout this week too, Suzanne. I don't know if you noticed that. And they were complaining. So I said, well, listen, we're on Gab now. So look over in Gab. So that's all. I didn't want this to be an advertisement for Gab, but I hope that people that are listening move over and start joining us there and start sharing over there. And let's see if we can grow the audience, because over there, I know we're not going to be censored at all. So anyway.
Well, I can say this much. You almost have more friends than I do, because with the stuff I post, I have yet to land in Facebook jail. So I don't know. But somebody must be more popular than me, which is not a shocker. I am a truck driver. Well,
you know, me, I'm surprised I haven't, but I also am very careful about what I post. I don't know. I don't know what I posted years ago. Maybe I said something offensive years ago because maybe I wasn't quite as cognizant of trying to keep things pretty, user friendly. So I don't know. We'll see. And if I get blocked, then I'm over on Gab. You can message me there. I'll gladly go over there. That's where they want us to go. We'll go over there. There's going to be something out there that we can use, and that's going to be better than Facebook. Facebook can go away for all I care, and it would be good.
The world may be a safer place if we got rid of Facebook. But that's I'm not saying that they're to blame for anything, but society has a weird way of having issues with certain social medias. Well, before we get into the really big news, I thought you might like this story. Apparently, there was a plane that had to make an emergency landing. Let's see. A pilot made an emergency landing after a fight broke out over a passenger who allegedly refused to stop passing gas. Two Dutchmen sitting next to the flatulent passenger reportedly asked the man to stop, but he refused and continued to break wind aboard the Transavia Airlines flight from Dubai to Amsterdam. So apparently we fight over gas. And I don't mean oil or gasoline.
Well, I was going to say, we're fighting wars over oil all the time, so gas doesn't surprise me. Yeah, very interesting. I'm not going to, I think I'll just let that one go. I'll pass on that one. Oh, that was bad. I'm sorry.
The budget airline crew allegedly did not help the passengers after their complaints, Metro reports, leading to a fight between the men. Despite a warning from the pilot, the altercation continued and forced the airplane to divert to Vienna, where it made an emergency landing. Of all the things to make an emergency landing over, I wouldn't have done the whole passing gas thing, but I'm not there, so I don't know. Maybe the guy smelled really bad. Apparently, the police ended up ordering the plane once it landed and removed 2 women and 2 men that the pilot reported as passengers on the rampage. The women, who are sisters that were removed from the flight, are now taking the airline to court, claiming they were not involved in the altercation. They called it humiliating. We had no idea who these boys were. We just had the bad luck to be in the same row, and we didn't do anything. All I will say is that the crew were really provocative and stirred things up. Oh, dear Lord. So, apparently, no guns on an airplane. We still find a way to fight with each other. I'm starting to think that's just a human condition.
Well, again, we can talk about the story. If you want to talk about that story now, we can talk about that. That's, let me see here. Oh, let's see. All right, let's go here. Well, obviously, we all know what happened this week. On what day was it? Wednesday? Or was it Thursday? Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't remember. It must have been Wednesday. So it had to be Wednesday. After Florida shooting, Texas Senator John Cornyn plans to talk gun policy with leading Democrat. Of course. One day after the mass shooting at a South Florida high school, U.S. Senator John Cornyn, Republican Texans, indicated Thursday that he is willing to sit down with top Democrat to discuss gun policy. Republican U.S. Senator John Cornyn of Texas said on Thursday that he wanted to sit down with one of the leading Senate Democrats to talk gun policy in the wake of the Wednesday's mass shooting at a South Florida high school. At a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing, U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein, Democrat California, brought the issue to the fore. Let's take some action, she said. We cannot see this continue on. Well, Suzanne and I talked about this at length the other day, the day of the shooting. Suzanne, did we have that Thursday, or did we do it the day of? It must have been Thursday. We must have did it the day after. So we talked about this Thursday after the shooting at length, and we can talk about it again because it is an important idea to make sure that people get. And there's maybe a different audience tonight than listened on Thursday to the show because it is an evening. This is evening, so there might be different people listening now. Anyway, the very first thing is that Cornyn, who our good friend Dwayne Stovall, who spoke to Suzanne the other day on her show, is going to run against, and I hope that he is able to defeat him in the primary. It's highly dubious because these guys have millions and millions of dollars that they have at their disposal to just crush anyone that tries to run against them. And it's all given to them by their cronies in the military-industrial complex that wants to keep the gravy train coming. I mean, we're only almost 22 trillion in debt, but heck, we got to bomb somebody somewhere. So anyway, hopefully Dwayne can unseat him. Again, I don't place a lot of hope in changing Washington, D.C., but the fact of the matter is, whether it's John Cornyn or Dianne Feinstein, they have no authority under the Constitution to regulate firearms. The fact of the matter is, what's that? What was that, Daniel?
I said they have no authority under God to regulate how you're going to defend yourself. That's the dirty little secret.
That's right. So where I was going with this is, I posted again. I believe I can't remember where I posted this on. I had to be on Cerberus that you don't have a Second Amendment, and this is Suzanne says this all the time. You don't have a Second Amendment right. Now, what does that mean? That means something a little different than you think it does. Not you, Daniel, but the listeners out there. What that means is that you had a natural right that pre-existed or predated the Constitution. This Constitution didn't give you anything, and you don't want it to give you any rights. Because the second you give the Constitution the authority to give you rights, you give the Constitution and the government the ability and the authority to take them away or to regulate them. That's why we're in the pickle we're in with this, because they have, with the help of the NRA, convinced you that you have a Second Amendment right that they give you. You don't. Come on. You have a natural right. You have a natural right to self-preservation, a natural right to self-defense. When you give them, you say you want them to give you rights, they're going to take them away. They're going to regulate them. I think you were going to say something, Daniel. It looked like you came up forward. You were going to say something.
I was going to go over the fallacy of what the CNN's been talking about there being 18 school shootings. But I got to circle with all the actual events that happened here.
Yeah, but we can get to that. Let me just finish up on this thought here, and then we can get to the number of shootings. Anyway, so stop saying you have a Second Amendment right, because you have a natural right that is far more important and much more, I don't know, what's the right word for that? I don't know. Anyway, stop saying they have the ability to take away or to restrict or to regulate your rights. They do not. The preamble makes it very clear that the Second Amendment, all the Bill of Rights were added to make sure that the general government knew where the boundaries were, that they had no authority delegated to them to regulate or deal with natural rights. But when you say they have the authority to do that, you're giving them the ability to regulate your natural rights. So what does that actually mean? That means that the general government has no authority to regulate firearms at all, and therefore every federal firearms law is unconstitutional. So which is better for you? You asking them to give you something that they can regulate and take away, or something that is absolute, saying that they have no authority and every one of their laws is unconstitutional? Obviously, the latter is better for us to defend our liberties. So anyway, Daniel, you have a story about, I've seen that story about the number of shootings in the United States, mass shootings in the United States so far this year. And it's not what they say it is, but go ahead.
Right. But before I get into that, it wasn't called a Second Amendment, obviously, but in the Magna Carta, didn't it protect British citizens under the crown from having their weapons confiscated, or was that there was something in there about that? It's their right to defend them. Something. I
do not know. I don't know British law at all. I did take, in college I took some sort of class that dealt with the English law, but I don't know it at all.
Yeah,
the wrong person to ask.
I think Patrick Henry brought it up several times that they had. It was before 76 that Britain had overstepped their boundaries and broken the Constitution and everything that Britain runs under. But Britain's got a different style Constitution. They don't actually have it in writing like we do. It's a really unique setup, and it works for them. It wouldn't work for us. Now, on to the 18 gun-related incidences at U.S. schools. Now, CNN's been going out and saying there's been 18 school shootings. 18 of them. Okay. So there's a picture here. I'm just glancing at the picture. Interestingly enough, 2 of them happened in California, in the LA area. 1 in San Bernardino, 1 in LA. 1 in Seattle. 1 in the Bronx in New York, which if you know anything about those locations, it is almost impossible to buy a gun in those locations. So obviously that's not helping. But I digress. We'll scroll on down here. Because, the article starts off talking about the one that happened on Wednesday. I will skip that one for now. Here's a list of the gun-related incidences. January 3rd, a 31-year-old man at St. John's, Michigan, died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in the parking lot of East Olive Elementary School, which had been closed since June. So it was obviously either closed permanently or was closed for repairs and wasn't open for the school year. January 4th, no one was injured when a bullet was fired into New Start High School in Seattle. No other information. January 9th, a 14-year-old student was found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in a Coronado Elementary School bathroom. So we're already up to 2 suicides. January 10th, bullets hit a building and a window at California State University in San Bernardino. No one was injured. No idea why that happened, but January 10th, a student confused a training weapon with a real gun and accidentally fired a bullet through a classroom wall at Grayson College in Denison, Texas. No one was hurt. That story kind of gets me because they shouldn't have training guns and real guns laying anywhere close to each other, and the gun shouldn't be loaded and just laying around either. January 15th, gunshots rang out in a parking lot of Wiley College in Marshall, Texas. A stray bullet went through the dorm room. No injuries. January 20th, a Winston-Salem State University football player was shot and killed at an event at Wake Forest University. January 22nd, a 15-year-old student was shot 4 times by a 16-year-old student at a high school in Italy, Texas. The victim survived. January 22nd, someone driving by Net Charter School in New Orleans shot at a group of students in the parking lot. Didn't you say New Orleans is one of the hardest cities to get a gun, Jeff?
New Orleans is one of those, I think, per 100,000, and that's how the FBI reports these things. Per 100,000, I think New Orleans is the murder capital of the United States. Believe it or not, that it's even greater than Chicago. So
that's interesting. Maybe that's why Chicago does.
They have tough gun laws in New Orleans, just like any of the other cities, just like Chicago. Chicago is right up there with New Orleans as a murder capital. Just about every weekend, there's in the teens murdered there every weekend, just about. So I don't know what they're up to. They're into the hundreds of murders already this year. But no outcry about that.
Yeah, that I don't live out there anymore. Thank God I don't live out there anymore. I used to walk those streets. Let's see. January 23rd, a 15-year-old student opened fire with a handgun inside a Benton, Kentucky high school. 2 students died and 17 others were injured. I believe that one was the first one of the year that actually made the news.
Right. And that's actually the only one so far that is an actual shooting in a school. Yeah, because all the others could have been the ones that hit buildings that were shots, like just hit a building. It could have been a crime being committed a mile away, where the bullet just happened to travel there and hit the school. Because, honestly, a bullet can travel a couple miles, depending on the caliber.
Yeah, it could be a hunter out in a farmer's field a mile away that just isn't making sure he's firing in a safe direction. He's not paying attention. It's a hunting accident. But we don't know because there was no other part of the story given. But yeah, this is okay. Here's one on the January 25th. A 16-year-old student fired multiple shots at another student at Murphy High School in Mobile. No one was injured. Which I guess
what they're finding out, what we don't have these stories is, was that a gang-related incident? Was this an actual crime that was this being perpetrated between 2 students? And again, it was just 2 students. It wasn't someone going around the school shooting up a school. And so this is a completely different crime.
Right. It's not necessarily a school shooting at this point. It just happened on school grounds. January 26th, someone fired shots from a car in the Dearborn High School parking lot in Michigan. It happened during a basketball game, but nobody was injured. What's the one outstanding characteristic from Dearborn, Michigan right now, Jeff?
It's full of Muslims.
No mention of that here in this article. And this article is by the local Fox 26. I don't know where it's based out of. I think it's out of Texas somewhere. Let's see. January 31st, a group of men exchanged gunfire in a parking lot at Lincoln High School in Philadelphia.
Again,
one man who was
drug-related, drugs.
That's what I'm going to.
Drugs, gang-related. I mean, it doesn't sound like it has anything to do with the school. It just happens to be at a parking lot.
Yeah, just happens to be in the parking lot. And you know as well as I do, they put some of these schools in like really bad sections of town too. Parts that nobody wants to live in anymore because there's very little police that the police don't even want to go in these communities anymore. Let's see. February 1st, a 12-year-old girl took a gun to Salvador Castro Middle School in Los Angeles. I believe I saw this one on the news too, where it went off accidentally and wounded 2 students. If I remember right, she took her drugged dad's gun to school for show and tell.
Can I ask a question? Salvador Castro, would that be any relation to Fidel Castro?
I was thinking the same thing, but I have no idea. Seeing how it's in LA surprised me. Google search it.
Well, no, That's where I'm at right now.
Middle School. Salvador. Okay. February 5th, a 17-year-old student was shot in the parking lot of Oxon Hill High School in Oxon Hill, Maryland. No other details. Could have been drug related, could have been made somebody mad, and no one knows. This is the one that also, this one's right up here with the training ones, Jeff. February 5th, a third grader at Harmony Learning Center in Maplewood, Minnesota, pressed the trigger of an officer's gun, causing it to discharge through the bottom of the holster. No one was injured.
And that, you know what? I'm having a hard time with that one. Because I know I know what our department's holsters are like, and you cannot put your finger on that trigger if it's in the holster. It's a physical impossibility.
This sounds like somebody was either showing off or was just so inept that they don't need to be working for the police department.
Exactly. Because I'm telling you right now, our police holsters, it's a physical impossibility to get your finger on that holster, on that trigger inside the holster.
Well, and that's how the holsters are designed too. It's supposed to prevent accidental misfire.
And it's also intended to keep someone that shouldn't have that gun out. It's doubly locked in. We have two different secure ways to secure that weapon in that holster. And I have to release both of them to get it out.
Yeah, it's not something.
I don't buy that. That story doesn't hold water. So
yeah, that's why that one kind of throws me. February 8th, a 17-year-old student fired a gunshot at the Metropolitan High School in the Bronx. No one was injured. Now, it says at the Metropolitan High School, so I don't know if he just aimed the gun at the building or if he took it in and shot it, but it's in the Bronx, people. Have you ever tried to buy a gun in New York City or in New York, period, for that matter? And then, of course, February 14th, 17 were killed and a dozen injured at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, after a former student opened fire. I have a method that will stop all school shootings from happening, though, Jeff, and I don't have to ban a single gun from doing it.
Go ahead.
Would you like? You want to hear my solution?
Yeah.
We'll ban the public school system. No public schools, there's no school shootings.
Right. I have often over the last few days suggested that people not have their children in public schools. If you want your child to be safe, homeschool them. There you go. The problem is solved. Your child will be perfectly safe inside your house. And he'll be getting an education that is worth way more than the education that the government is giving him. Or
he might actually learn something other than feed the dribble from. Well, anyway, I'm going to get off on a Lincoln tear here.
No, the problem. The thing is, here's the deal with the public schools. The public schools today, they don't teach children how to think, how to reason. They teach them the answers to the questions. So the question is, what year was the Declaration of what's the date the Declaration of Independence was signed? July 4, 1776. So they teach that kid July 4, 1776. Now that kid just knows the answer to the question. That's all they teach them. They don't teach them how to read to find that answer. They teach them the answer to the questions, not how to reason, how to read the Declaration, and just figure out what that all means.
Yeah, I was lucky. I went to Christian school, and the Christian schools now have gotten almost as bad with we're just going to teach a curriculum and we're just going to push the kids through. But I don't know. Maybe I'm an anathema and I'm just weird. But I actually started looking at it all the way down to, how it was worded and how it was everything. And some of it just doesn't make sense the way they teach it. It's not even close. Especially if you start comparing. Go ahead.
No, good.
I was going to say, if you start comparing the Constitution to the current actions of the government, or if you start applying the Declaration to the current actions of the government, you would see that we're in the same situation the founders were in the 1770s, 1760s.
Right.
And
If you most of the complaints against King George we have today. Our government does the same thing, and that's what the other day Suzanne and I were talking, and I said we were discussing, and when we were getting ready to do that show about this shooting, we discussed the 10 pillars of communism, and quite honestly, that's what we live today. We are not a that's not. I don't. Capitalist is not. But okay, capitalist. We're not a capitalist society. We don't have a representative republic. We are a Marxist, top-down, Soviet-style government. That's what we have.
The only thing we don't have is the armed troops in the streets demanding that we go to work, and we work so many hours, and we have to do X, Y, and Z. I mean, we went from we were never a free market economy, never in our history. We went from we were the closest to it right up until about 1850, but then when Henry Clay well, actually, it goes back to about 1800. When Henry Clay started coming in and doing all the protectionist tariffs, and then Lincoln exaggerated them, we went into a full mercantilist economy, and now we're into some quasi-socialist, communist-style government and economy now, where the government basically controls every aspect of your life.
Right. Well, I posted that the other day, too. You want to do, let's say, do you want to be a hairdresser? Go beg the government to give you a license. You want to be a paramedic? Go beg the government to give you a license. You want to be a nurse? Go beg the government to give you a license. You want to be a doctor? Go beg the government to give you a license. Name your poison. If you want to do most of your jobs, go beg the government to give you a license.
I was going to say, if you're a farmer and you want to store the manure from your cows and your hogs to dump on your field, you must have a license to store it.
I mean, we are not free. And the government basically, the one pillar that talks about the government in control of industry and everything else, they are in charge of industry. If you cannot do anything, they regulate it, they control it. Cars, for example. Can you build a car without seatbelts?
No, not legally in the United States.
Can you build a car without a horn?
No, won't pass inspection.
I mean, honestly, just be honest, folks. If we are not free. The government runs our lives. They micromanage everything. Can you today buy incandescent bulbs? Not legally. Can you buy a toilet that actually flushes in one time? That actually has enough water coming down through it to flush?
Absolutely not.
No, it can only flush 1.1 gallons. Who came up with that rule? It wasn't industry. It was government.
But who better to come up with how much water we need to do to flush crap down the drain than the federal government, Jeff?
Obviously, they know better than us.
The highest promoters of BS on the planet is going to tell you how you can store your BS, how you can treat your BS, and how you can flush your BS.
Yes, Suzanne, this is back to the first story of the show with the gas on the plane. We've come full circle. All right. So anyway, you have to beg the government to do anything today. We are not a free. We are. Again, what did Patrick Henry say? Come on. Here we go. Let's pull Patrick Henry out. All right. Patrick Henry said, "You're not to inquire how your trade may be increased, nor how you are to become a great and powerful people, but how your liberties can be secured. For liberty ought to be the direct end of your government." Is liberty the direct end of this government?
No.
Absolutely not.
Control and power is a direct end of this government.
So, what did Jefferson say? I don't have my pocket Constitution, which has.
You referring to the Lee Amendment?
No, my pocket Constitution has the Declaration of Independence in it. Jefferson.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Lee Amendment in the Declaration.
Oh well. Anyway, what did Jefferson say when governments aren't protecting your liberty? We are to throw them off and replace them.
Right. Right.
I mean, we've just come to this point where, okay, we have a choice. We're $22 trillion in debt. And if by let's go with a conservative number here, if they were to have to pay off all these people that are on Social Security and Medicaid or Medicare, there's at the very minimum $100 trillion more they owe that they cannot pay right now. And I've seen it as high as $200 trillion. So that would put us anywhere from $122 trillion to $222 trillion in the hole right now that we can't pay. I think it's about time we start talking about a real solution, and that is breaking up this union. This union shot, there's no fixing it. And to think that one person going to Washington, D.C. is going to change anything there is a futile effort.
I have the exact quote from Jefferson's Declaration. It starts off with that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundations on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their happiness or their safety and happiness.
Well, and the problem is today, people don't think about the fact that the same natural right that existed then for those people to determine their governments are the same natural rights that we have today. Nothing's changed. And it's time that we have a serious discussion about how we're going to fix this union, which is unfixable, or how we're going to break it up and start governing ourselves locally and governing ourselves. Because the fact of the matter is, they're not there to govern us. They're not there to be our representatives. They're there to enrich themselves. As Henry said, you're not to ask how you can enrich your trade. Well, that's what they're there for. They're there to enrich their trade. And here we go. Halverson. I'm not sure who he is. And he's a candidate. And I lost what this is from. Okay. He's a candidate. Anyway, he says federal gas tax hike will crush Pennsylvanians. Kennedy calls on President Trump to reject Schuster's advice. Man's Choice PA. Republican congressional candidate Art Halverson, PA 9, today urged President Trump to not be cajoled by Bill Schuster and other career politicians pushing for a 25 cents per gallon increase in federal gas tax. We aren't being taxed enough. They aren't stealing enough from us. Now they want to add another 25 cents to the gas tax. So just think, every 4 gallons, you're paying them another $1.
Oh, that's okay.
Another 20-gallon fill up, you're going to give them another $5 every time you go. And it's quite honestly, who doesn't pretty much have a $20 fill up or 20-gallon fill up anymore? Just about everybody.
Yeah, that's okay. I know you get fuel up in New York, but the local price around here, the cheapest you can find it is $2.75 a gallon because of the way the state rewrote the fuel tax law. And that was under Republicans, by the way. So don't think Republicans are looking out for you.
I'll get to that. Here, I can get to that. Raising the gas tax will be harmful to Pennsylvania, who are already suffering from the highest state gas taxes in the country, this guy said. This terrible idea would be especially hurtful to the working poor and senior citizens on fixed incomes. Pennsylvania already collects 58 cents per gallon in taxes after Governor Corbett, Republican, supported a 25 cents per gallon increase in 2013. The unpopular tax boost helped make Corbett the only Republican governor in the country to lose re-election in 2014. That's why we have Wolf today, because Corbett lost because they screwed all the Pennsylvanians. And you know what? They should have lost the House and they should have lost the Senate, because the Republicans are the ones that passed it through them too. Two of Halverson's primary opponents in the 2018 congressional race, State House Minority Leader David Reed, State Senator John H. Eichelberg Jr. also supported the hike. So 58 cents a gallon of that price you just talked about is Pennsylvania gas tax. And that's on top of, I'm not quite sure what the federal is, but it's in the 30s. I'm almost positive. It's probably 30 cents. So, and it's well over $1. All the taxes and excises are over $1 a gallon. We would be paying under $2 a gallon if it wasn't for government. But see, now they want to add 25 cents more to it.
Pennsylvania changed that a little bit, Jeff. It's not a straight up 25 cents a gallon. It's like a percentage, because they charge it on the front end when the fuel delivery guy gets there. It's not classified as a fuel tax anymore. You pay it to say you get your fuel at Sheetz, which is a local gas station, or Citgo, or any of the local gas stations. They've already paid the tax. You're paying the gas station back because of the way they did it. The old rule had them capped at like $1.30 or $1.50. However, the new rule, they basically did away with that and went, ha, 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 now we're going to get all this money that we can rebuild our roads with. And I don't know about you, but these are some of the worst winter roads I have seen in my entire lifetime coming out of this state. Yeah, well, again, I had this discussion the other day about I don't know which tax it was. Basically, I said, listen, you're going to pay the tax, and that's what this is. If that's truly what it is, they're taxing the front end. It doesn't really matter. That company is not going to pay the tax. You're going to pay the tax because it's going to come down to the price. They're going to increase the price. I know what it was. We were discussing the Pennsylvania's desire. I was talking about the other day on my show, Pennsylvania's desire to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And I did post on someone's Facebook page. They were supporting the increase in the minimum wage. And I said, well, the fact of the matter is, if you go right down the road to a little town called Troy, Pennsylvania, just a little one stoplight town in Pennsylvania, there's a McDonald's down there. In that little McDonald's, in that little one stoplight town, there is 2 stations, one on each, but it's 4 kiosks, one on each side of both stations. So there's 4 stations at 2 kiosks that you go in there, punch it in, what you want, put your money in and pay, and then somebody hands you the stuff across the counter. $15 an hour means those high school kids will not have a job, because everything will happen at the kiosk. There'll be one guy handing you food, one guy in the back making it, and there may be a guy at the drive-through. There won't be 2 windows at the drive-through anymore, because they can't afford to have somebody taking your money and someone handing you the bag. It'll be one guy. Those places will be run by 3 people, where today they're probably run by, this one down here has probably got 6 or 7 people there working at any given time. It'll be 3 people. But will they get my order? But will they get my order?
Probably not, because it's just going to come up on a piece of paper in front of the guy. He's going to put it there and make it. Who knows? They'll probably get it wrong. They'll be, because there's only going to be 3 of them there. They won't have time to get it right. But anyway,
well, I don't have time to get it right now.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is, they can pass that, but the rules of economics are they're going to pass the costs on, and the costs are going to go up, or people are going to lose their jobs. They raise this tax, prices are going to go up. Even if they would pass it on the company and say the company's going to pay that, and that's how they try to hide it today. But then what happens? like you said, the price of gas goes up because that company is not going to eat that. They're not going to eat 25 cents a gallon. Just like those companies, McDonald's isn't going to eat that extra $7.50 an hour. They can't eat another $7.50 an hour. They're going to pass it on in costs or lay people off and get rid of them. So, again, like I said the other day, if the minimum wage going to $15 an hour absolutely cannot, it defies every rule of economics, and it won't do a thing to the prices or to jobs, then why are you stopping at $15 an hour? Because if that doesn't change anything, make it $100 an hour, because it obviously wages defy all rules of economics. It's not, it defies all the rules of direct costs. I mean, heck, make it $100 an hour. So, government's out of control. They're trying to do that, and all they can do is try to steal more from us.
Yeah, I find it very interesting that they seem to think that wages operates outside of the bubble of economics.
Yeah.
Like the cost of labor has nothing to do with the cost you pay.
All right. Here we go. From USA Today. Since we're talking about them already trying to raise gasoline taxes, and they're always squandering millions and trillions of dollars. We're already $22 trillion in debt. Report, and this is from you again, Alan Gomez from USA Today, and report: more than half of immigrants on welfare. More than half of the nation's immigrants receive some kind of government welfare, a figure that is far higher than the native-born population, according to the report released Wednesday. So here we go. Steal more of our money, give it to people that come here illegally. No wonder we're $22 trillion in debt. And they just raised spending. They passed a stopgap budget, which means they didn't have a budget. They just decided they just agreed to spend, and they raised the amount of money they're going to give it's not the Department of it's the Department of Offense. It's not defense. They're going to spend more money. In return, the Democrats got more money to give to illegal aliens and everyone else that's on the government dole. So the corporations, they're going to get their billions from the government dole, and all the welfare people are going to get their billions from the government dole, and the people that shouldn't be here legally or shouldn't be here at all because they're here illegally are going to get all that money. So here we go. That's just again, there's only one solution, and that's to break this whole stupid thing up, and it's because it's ridiculous at this point. What else do you have there, Daniel? You must have something to.
Oh, I got a good one here that's really going to probably set a nerve off. I will skip that one for now. Report finds UN employs 3,300 pedophiles responsible for 60,000 rapes in the last 10 years.
Yeah, I saw that. I just didn't download it.
Yeah, an outright frightening dossier released by a former senior UN official reveals that UN employees have carried out over 60,000 rapes in just the last decade. What's more, the dossier estimates that the organization currently employs at least 3,300 pedophiles. Probably most of them are representatives, by the way, to the UN, but I digress. And yet, in just 10 years, under the guise of rendering aid, the UN has literally been raping and pillaging countries across the world. This has been going on since the 1950s, people, not just the last 10 years. Do some research on the Congo, for Pete's sakes. The problem has gotten so out of hand that it prompted the former UN insider, Andrew McLeod, Mr. Andrew, to blow the whistle and hand over the evidence to Britain's Department of International Development, the DFID Secretary, Priti Patel, who no longer has that position, by the way, because she was basically forced out by that's British politics, but she was forced out of that position, by the way. According to the exclusive report by The Sun, the dossier reveals that on top of the 3,300 pedophiles working for the organization, as if it can't get any worse, thousands more predatory sex abusers specifically target aid charity jobs to get close to vulnerable women and children. This is the same organization that Mr. Emmanuel wants to bring into Chicago to, quote, rein in gun violence. According to McLeod, anyone who's attempting to blow the whistle on this horrifyingly rampant abuse is silenced and fired. I couldn't have guessed. It's ridiculous. How do you let that many people through?
Easy. It's a Marxist organization. Look at good grief. Look at our government. Look at all the sexual harassment and all the other things that go on with these guys up there. President having oral sex in the White House. I mean, come on.
Representatives, yes. It's just ridiculous.
We have a government full of perverts and criminals that aren't being prosecuted now. Why would we be surprised that the UN is any different? We have a government full of them already here.
Yeah. Just gotta love it, right?
Now,
nope. Nobody's it's not that. Here's another one for you. You might like this one. Since we're Pennsylvania, or at least I'm from Pennsylvania anyway. Senator Bob Casey Mueller would be mistaken to release final Russia report close to midterms. Of course, that's a very unflattering picture I have of Casey, too. I really don't like the man. Senator Casey believes it would be a mistake for Special Counsel Robert Mueller to release his final report on Russian interference in the 2016 election near the fall midterm elections. Could that be because this is about to blow up in the Democrats' face, Jeff? Now that they've indicted 13 Russians?
Well, again, they don't have time to stop this shooting. Even though the FBI got two separate tips on this guy, they couldn't even figure out to go down there and interview. As far as you know, the FBI never even went and interviewed this 19-year-old. They had tips on the guy from Las Vegas. They had tips on the guy they've had tips on almost every one of these, but somehow they don't manage to stop any of these people from actually committing the crimes.
The interesting part about the one in Florida, though, is supposedly there was 20-some visits from local law enforcement to the kid's home. Then he was expelled. Then the FBI was notified, and somebody just drops the ball. I mean, if I'm local law enforcement, I'm like completely furious at this point because somebody should have done something. Casey comment. Do what?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
I was going to say Casey's comments came after Mueller indicted 13 Russian nationals last week and 3 groups with charges associated with interfering with the 2016 election.
I have a question.
Trial.
I have a question. All these illegal aliens that they're getting to vote, aren't those foreigners that are influencing our elections? Why aren't they prosecuting all them? Huh?
Hey, Jeff, your nurse is there to give you your pills.
I'm sure she is.
You haven't you haven't taken your government BS pill today. Mueller is also investigating whether the Trump campaign colluded with Russian officials. Of course, it came out in that indictment that they said the Russians were colluding with, I believe they said both parties, and that it appears that neither party, that no Americans actually knew of this so-called collusion that was going on. That they were even talking to Russian nationals. So I guess we're in Cold War tactics, but I mean, kudos to Russia to actually pulling this off. If this was their intended result, kudos to them. Hey, we've only, how many elections do we tamper in on a yearly basis, Jeff? Like all of them?
All of them. All of them.
So,
I mean, I saw an article the other day. I didn't print it out, and I don't have it in front of me to read. But it had a picture of Wasserman Schultz on there, and it basically said the courts have agreed that the Democrats can rig the election for Hillary. They can do that. It's okay.
I think I've seen that meme floating around. I don't think we'll know anywhere near the full story until Mueller issues his report. Casey said in an interview with John. I can't even say that last name. It's a really long name from New York. I don't know if that report will be in the spring or summer. First of all, Mr. Casey, why are you talking to a reporter in New York? You're a senator for Pennsylvania. We have perfectly good news reporters here in Pennsylvania. You could talk to them. Oh, wait. I know, because you're hiding in your office. Casey cautioned that once it's the summer and closer to the fall midterms, I think it's a mistake for him to release it late. I think you should wait until after the election.
Well, the fact of the matter is, our government is full of criminals, and nothing's being done about it. And for the most part, most people out here in America just don't care. It's the other guy's party. They're the corrupt ones. My party's not corrupt.
Right. The amazing part about it also is that if this report comes out now, everybody will forget everything about it by the time November rolls around.
I'm sure there'll be another mass shooting or something to distract them.
I'm beginning to think that's all this, that most of the news is just a distraction to distract us from what they're actually trying to do.
Well, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't seen any, I haven't really seen anything on this whole 25 cents a gallon gas, but, it's obviously out there. They're going to steal as much from us as they can. And, New York State, the governor here is looking where I work. They're looking at new and improved ways to take money out of the paycheck. Well, they're not. It's going to be neutral, revenue neutral. It won't change your pay thing. It's just going to change the way they take money out of your paycheck. If you believe a politician. All right, I know it's almost time to quit. And it's time to go take a
break today. We just rambled right on through. We're getting better.
Well, I was going to say something. I thought, heck with it. We can just go right on. We'll just go the whole way. So anyway, that's it for me. I don't have anything more. I'm all wound up. So now it's going to take me about 3 hours to be able to unwind enough to go to sleep. And it was nice talking to you earlier, Suzanne. Sorry to give you such a hard time. But I'm glad you're out of jail.
I look forward to our shows tomorrow. Good night, guys.
Good night, Suzanne.
Good night. This has been the Renegade and the Rambler show. This is your February 2018 or February 18th, 2018 edition. Which is I don't get tongue-tied. If you would like to know when we are live, if you hit that subscribe button and the little bell at the bottom, it will send a notification to your phone saying that we are live. Also, you can click at any time during this video. There's a little water icon down there. It'll also let you subscribe. And if you want to see our other shows, hit the playlist button and all of them pop up going all the way back to, I believe, November of last year or, probably January of last year.
And download Gab and like us there.
Correct. You'll see the little three-headed dog symbol there. We're the only one on there. You should have no problems. Until next time, we have live shows coming up tomorrow at 9 and 10. 8 and 9, I believe.
9 and 10. 9 a.m. and 10 a.m.
9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Again, subscribe and you will know this. So we look forward to seeing you then. Until then, we wish you a safe week. Have a good night, and we look forward to talking at you again tomorrow.